friends, I'm Tati, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm doing my May wrap up. In the month of May, I read 8 books, which after 2 months of a reading slump, it is unprecedented, and I am so happy that it happened. In May, I finally finished the semester. Around the second week of May, I was finally able to have free time to do with as I pleased, and that was so wonderful. In that free time, I read 8 books. So let's go through them. The first book I finished in the month of May was Beloved by Toni Morrison. I did not give this a rating because I read it for university. Generally, I don't give ratings to books that I read for university because I read them in such a different mindset. So I didn't give this a rating, but I do have some thoughts on it. I enjoyed the book a lot and I enjoyed the story. I had a problem with the narrative structure of the book because sometimes I couldn't quite tell if I was in the past or in the narrative present, and so that like kind of took me out of the book sometimes. I also did listen to this on audio, so it might have been different if I had been reading it physically or in an ebook. That might have changed how I felt about that, but audiobook wise, I really sometimes couldn't tell. It like the switch was so subtle, it took me a while sometimes to figure out where I was in the timeline of events of the novel. I read this for my feminism literature class, which was a drag, not because of the books that I was reading, just because of the professor. It wasn't a good time. The second book that I finished in May was American Royals by Katherine McGee. I read this for our monthly live show. It was on Sammy's channel. I will link it up above wherever it is. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I mean, I'm gonna summarize basically the thoughts that I had here because you can go watch us scream about it for about an hour on Sammy's channel. Basically, the book left me with more questions than it did answers, and the characters all mostly sucked. The one person that I genuinely liked in this book was Connor. He was great, but everybody else sucked. They were all terrible. The premise of this book is basically that when the War of Independence in the United States happened, when the Pilgrims were establishing their independence from England, instead of the United States turning into a democracy, it turns into a monarchy. And then it's never really addressed again. Why? How? Congress still exists. The founding fathers still exist. But it's really never put into any sort of context. And George Washington was the first king of America. And like, I was more interested in like the geopolitical implications of the United States being a monarchy than I was interested in the characters. There was really no world building whatsoever, and also beyond Europe and mentioning Japan once, the author really doesn't explore how America being a monarchy affects like its relationships with other countries, what is going on in other countries, because at one point it's mentioned that because America turned into a monarchy, the French Revolution literally stopped and it's still a monarchy. And that makes no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever, and it's just, there was so much stupid in this book. America being a monarchy makes literally no sense. This book was just a roller coaster. Also, it was very, very romance heavy, which is not my cup of tea, unless like very specific romances, and this was definitely not it. This particular book was definitely not it, which is why I got a 2 out of 5 stars. And I regret nothing. The next couple books that I finished were all of these. They're all by Alice Oseman, and I'll go through them in a second. Last year, as a midterms present to myself during my first semester of my master's, I decided to buy myself all of the Alice Oseman books, like the really pretty covers that they sell in the UK. I ordered them from Waterstones in the UK, and I read half of all of them last year, but I really hadn't gotten around to finishing the other half, so here we are. Let's go through them. The first one I finished because I was going in publication order was Radio Silence, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This was a reread for me, and I loved it so much on the second reading as I did on the first. It was so good. I related to these characters so much. I related in very different ways to both Alid and Francis, and I love this book, but I'll try to be more coherent about it. Okay, I wrote in my review that sometimes I have trouble talking coherently about books that I love. I have this problem with Red, White, and Royal Blue to the point that I can mostly just squeal about it and say how good it is, but I never fully explain myself. So I'm gonna attempt to explain myself when it comes to Radio Silence. The writing and the pace were excellent, and the plot was really good as well. I enjoyed all these aspects. The book is beautifully written, the plot is really good, it's very slice of life, which I enjoy, and the pacing was excellent because it sometimes meandered, which was a good thing in this book. It like went into different ways and it was kind of slow to begin with, but then towards the end it picks up when you need it to, and it was really, really good. But I'm gonna focus on the characters because those are the ones that I really wanted to focus on. We have a whole range of characters in this, but I'm mostly just gonna focus on Alice and Francis because they are the main characters of this book. Alice, sweet baby boy, I love him so much. I related to him in so many ways. There's this one line in the book that he has that is like, sometimes I think if nobody spoke to me, I'd never speak again. And I relate to that so much. I completely understood where he was coming from, but he's also like such a creative force, and I love that for him. And Francis, oh, I love Francis so much. We're both weird, neurotic, studious, but also like creative. Throughout most of the book, she feels very divided, that she can't be herself around her schoolmates, that she has to like compartmentalize who she is. I felt that way throughout most of my life, so seeing a character that feels the same way was mind-blowing. I related to her on so many ways, and there were also a bunch of other great characters in this. Daniel's character arc is really great. It is a lesser character arc, of course, but it's still really great to see all the growth that he does throughout the book. Karis is amazing, and I love her so much. And just Rain was also great. Freaking Francis's mother is an MVP in this book in so many ways, and I just adore her so much. She reminds me of my own mom. Do you understand? I think you understand. Anyway, I'm gonna move on now. The fourth book that I finished in May was I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. This was my first reading of I Was Born for This. It was so good. I really liked how the narrative of the book was divided between Angel and Jimmy. I thought that was a really nice touch to get to see it from both sides of what the plot revolves around. This book revolves around this girl that is meeting an online friend for the very first time, and they're gonna go see their favorite boy band together, the Ark. And so in the book you get the narrative perspective of Angel, which is the girl that is gonna meet her friend and go see the Ark, and from Jimmy, which is one of the members of the boy band. And it's really cool because you get this juxtaposition of seeing events from two vastly different perspectives, which I really enjoyed. And also you get to see the development eventually of Angel and Jimmy's friendship, and it was just excellent. I really loved how the book was written, how it was structured. The plot was really good as well, and like the friendship arc that is put throughout. I really like that Alice Oseman's works revolve very strongly around friendship. Like there is romance and relationships and all that stuff, but there's also a very strong core of friendship at the center of them, which I really enjoy. The fifth book that I finished in May was Loveless by Alice Oseman, and I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. This centers around Georgia, who is going off to university, and her two best friends are coming with her, and she has graduated high school. She has never been kissed, and she's never had a relationship. She decides that in university, that is what she's gonna do. She's gonna fall in love, and she's gonna have her first relationship. Throughout the book, she realizes that that won't be as easy as she thought it was. Throughout the book, she realizes that she's Arrow Ace, and so the book goes from there. I really love this book because of the strong emphasis that it has on friendship and on the found family aspect. Throughout the novel, she creates really important friendships, aside from the 2 that she already has from high school. She meets 2 other people at university that she forms really strong bonds with. It's a found family, which I am a sucker for, and I really love this book. I love the friendship that Georgia forges with her roommate Rooney, and how strong and beautiful their relationship and their friendship is. I really like that the book hits home the aspect that friendships can and are just as important as romantic relationships, and they can be just as fulfilling as romantic relationships, and that friendships are really what feeds your heart and your mind and your soul and your life. I also really liked that throughout this journey that Georgia goes on, she makes mistakes, she acknowledges her mistakes, and she realizes that she has to apologize, and like genuinely apologize. It's not like I'm sorry and it's one and done. No, she has to give people time, and she has to find ways to apologize that people are gonna realize that she is genuine and sincere. This book was fantastic and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The 6th book that I finished in the month of May was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a reread. Only a mentally ill person would willingly reread this book. And hi, hello, that is I. I reread this because I'm working on a little reading blog based on a list that I got from a place, and this was the first book on the list. And I said, sure, why not? Look, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Like I did last time. I listened to the audiobook. I was in pain. There were pros and cons to rereading this. First of all, I've already read it, so I know what to expect. So I can see the pain coming. The con being that I can see the pain coming. Not as many tears were shed this time around because I could see the pain coming. But you know, still an enjoyable read, even though the ending... pain. Right? I really enjoyed the characters. Achilles was great. His character development was awesome. Patroclus, I love him. Also, I like that Achilles and Patroclus make each other better. They push each other to be better. Not because they have to be, just because they want to be better for each other, which I love. But this is sad. Pain. So much pain. Why willingly put myself through this reread? I don't know. But I did. And here we are. And that is all I'm going to say on this book because pain. So much pain. The 7th book that I finished in the month of May was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. You ever know when you're reading a book and the book is just fine? I mean, it has a decent plot and premise, and it's relatively well written, and the characters have arcs that they go through. Like the book is objectively fine and good, but you're just extremely bored the entire time. That's how I felt reading The House in the Cerulean Sea. I was bored most of the time. Also, the writing was fine. I didn't think it was all that great. And the plot was good, if a little predictable, which I usually don't mind a predictable plot, but this time around I kind of did. And the romance was also deeply fine. It was just deeply fine. I was bored throughout all of it. I didn't really like the main character. I couldn't connect with him in any way really, and that made it harder for me to connect to the rest of the story. And while I enjoyed the fantasy aspect of the book, I really didn't understand what they were getting at with the magical system or with the magical creatures. Like, there was really no history behind it. The world felt sort of lived in, but at the same time it felt very new. There was really no explanation of how we got here. We just were, which I would have really liked an explanation of. Maybe this is just because I've started reading adult fantasy and I'm turning into a snob. I don't know. I was left with questions. I felt very meh about the book. I didn't really connect to any of the characters. Lucy was the only character that I like sort of connected to, and it was just because he was an agent of chaos, which I deeply like in a character. I like agents of chaos. Other than that, I wasn't really able to connect with any of the characters. I didn't really care about anything that was happening, any of the characters. I was just... That was a 3 out of 5. Could have gone lower, honestly. Probably. If I really think about it and sit down and ponder about it for a little while, I could go lower. Some books are a hit or miss. This was a miss. Those were my thoughts. They probably weren't very good, but that's okay. There was this book. Okay. The 8th and final book that I finished in the month of May was Sanguine by Alice Oseman. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars, and okay. If you've been following along for a while, you know that I like Alice Oseman. She is my queen. I like the things that she writes. I have the entire Thornchapel series right here behind me. I enjoy the things that she writes. To the point that Skylar and I kind of Instagram stalk her. Every time she comes out with something, she says something, we send it to each other and we scream about it. I didn't know this book existed until I decided to check my email, right? Because I have an email, as most of us do, where I get all my bookish stuff sent. So like the newsletters and the boxes and the stuff. I don't need that in my everyday email because it's gonna clog up my things and I'm not gonna see my work emails. So I have a dedicated email where all my book stuff goes, right? And so I was checking on the tracking on an order that I placed, and one of these many lists that I have signed up for says in the title line, new book by Alice Oseman. And I was like, what? How do I not know about this? I usually know about these things. And so I opened the email, shows me the cover, and it says vampires. I almost died. First thing I did, go to Amazon. It was 99 cents. I bought it. And then I proceeded to tell Skylar about it because she really likes vampires. I'm cool with vampires, but she really likes vampires and she's been wanting vampires for a while. And so I sent the thing to her and we both yelled about how we didn't know about this. Alice Oseman posted about it on her Instagram like 3 days later, but how did we not know about this? Why did I have to check my email to find out? Anyway, I bought it and that very night I said, fuck it. I'm gonna read this right the fuck now. It's a short story. I can be one and done in a little bit. And so I did. And holy hell. Look, this short story, it has literally zero plot. Do I care? Fuck no. Literally the plot of the short story is this priest who was a vampire hunter meets a vampire. They go to dinner and then they fuck. That is the entire plot of the short story. Really, there's nothing to give away. You know what you're going into with Alice Oseman. It was excellent. It was excellent. It was so good. This was the perfect combination of smut and fluff. It was great. I will be answering no questions at this time. It was great. Love the characters. Love the short story. The lack of plot, excellent. Also, if Alice Oseman were ever to decide to write a longer work for these characters and the lore that she has built, I will gladly read it. I liked how she established vampires. I really liked the characters and the lore that she was establishing from the Order of St. Marcellus. So if she ever wants to write a longer work for these two, please give it to me because I will gladly read it. That was my little breakdown over Sanguine. Anyway, those were the 8 books that I read in May. It was a fun time. I'm glad that I am back on the reading train. I'm excited for everything that I'm going to be doing in the month of June, for all the reading that I'm going to be doing. I'm so excited for that. That has been my May wrap up. There was a lot of good, even though there were some books that were just I'm happy with my progress in May. I'm gonna go now. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, come yell at me in the comments, and I will see you on the next video. I have been Tati. Bye!